Uh,
Okay,
Okay.
can you introduce me?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Week 11. Our topic tonight is finding flow, letting go of struggle. And I'm going to introduce Jeffrey Combs. And Jeff is a renowned author, speaker, and success coach, and addiction coach who specializes in separating feelings from past events in a process called letting go. Jeff started his business Golden Mastermind Seminars 23 years ago in 1998, and since then has coached over 14,000 clients and 70,000 one-on-one hours. Jeff has published 5 books, including a number one on Amazon's best-selling list, and has been featured on social media publications, magazines, radio, Fox, ABC, CBS, and Lifetime. Jeff is available for one-on-one coaching, as well as keynote speeches, podcasts, Zooms, and Facebook Lives. And everyone, welcome to the call. Jeff, finding flow, letting go of struggle. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Desiree. My absolute honor to be here with you. And Desiree, we're into year number 11 of our relationship. And I had the privilege of being your coach back in the day on different occasions, you and Mike. And it's just such a privilege to be here with your team. I want to thank all of you who have sent me messages, hired me, and have supported the progress here in the 11 weeks. So this is a very unique call, and this is going to be a deep call for many of you, so you can really understand that there's a cause that creates the effect of why you do what you do, so that there is a separation. So in letting go, we're in week number 11. We have one more week to go. And after these 12 weeks, the purpose of Desiree bringing me here was not to assist you with building your brand. I mean, there are so many great people that can assist you with that, or not how to close a sale specifically. I definitely can assist you with that. But my uniqueness is assisting people to understand what a trauma bond and a panic pattern is, and how it affects you on a day-to-day basis. And it keeps you avoiding being your best self. Now, if you find yourself as a business owner and an entrepreneur going to events, conventions, reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to training calls, but yet you're not getting paid, and you've been in the business for a few days, weeks, months, years, well, there's a reason. I mean, there's the newness of the business, but there's also a lot of what goes on unconsciously in 3 sectors of your brain. And if you don't understand this, then you'll just keep recreating the same panic patterns over and over that fulfills the same set of feelings that lead to disappointment. I've coached, as Desiree said, 14,000 clients. It's actually near 17,000. I just haven't updated that. And it is over 70,000 hours one-on-one. And today I'll coach 14 hours, just like I do every Monday through Thursday. I coach Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. I've coached a lot of clients. So I experience a lot of predictability. A lot of the same situations show up over and over. Now, one of the challenges that many people have is being and staying honest with themselves. Now, that doesn't mean you're a liar, but it means if you're in denial and don't understand why you do what you do, it's going to be your responsibility to have a better understanding of how these events shape these feelings and why I avoid being my best self. And it doesn't matter how much you read, it doesn't matter what you listen to if you can't apply it. Now, you're exposed to great content. I know many of the leaders in your group and in your company and in this industry. So you're all in the right place at the right time. It's your responsibility, though, to be able to recognize and then monetize the opportunity. So if you're just getting ready to get ready, educating, medicating, and levitating, you're not going to get paid. Your objective in owning a business is to have a business for profit. Now, your ego goes, well, I'm in business to help people. That's the Red Cross and Salvation Army. You're in business to empower yourself and empower others. You're in business to sell products, services, goods, benefits, and features. And that means the commerce sector, the transaction. It's going to be your responsibility to create the money. Money does not happen because you're a good person. Although being a good person is an asset. I mean, definitely it's better than being a bad person, but you're not entitled to create money because you're educated or because you're showing up or you're devoting time. You're going to get paid because you're good at what you do. You're going to get paid because you're skilled at what you do. You're going to be paid because you're going to be compensated because you have skills and you're good at attracting people, and you learn how to lead by example, and you lead people into the culture, and then you'll eventually learn how to mentor a few people over the course of your career. So what is so important right now is that you find flow rather than find yourself in resistance. And if you're getting ready to get ready, procrastinating, you're not recruiting, you're not enrolling, you're not attracting people to your business, there is a reason. It's an epidemic that most people live in. It's called anxiety, fear, and doubt. And anxiety, fear, and doubt is driven by events that are unresolved. There are three components of your brain that you will continue to create a brain fog in. Number one is called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the portion of your brain that stores trauma. And if you've been in long-term traumatic relationships, whether it happens in your household, then it happens in your personal relationships, and it shows up in your children, it's not uncommon to have children that we create to attract, and we attract the same situation, and we're in conflict with them, just like we're in conflict with a mate, we're in conflict with parents, we're in overwhelmed conflict a lot. And if you've been picked on, singled out, traumatized, if you had a narcissistic parent and then married a narcissistic mate, or had a narcissistic mate that continued to criticize you, or passive aggressive people in your circle of influence, it definitely has an effect on your brain chemistry. And that's the hippocampus. That's the first sector of the brain that is affected. And it definitely affects your ability to create flow, because it means you live in your head, and you live in your head, and then the pinball machine is going off, and you're having challenges deciding. Now, that sector of the brain where you have challenges creating decisions is called the amygdala. That's the portion of the brain that gets affected over long-term trauma in making decisions. And it affects if you're overwhelmed a lot and you live in a state of, I don't know, I don't understand this. It's very common for me in my one-on-one coaching. In the first few hours of my clients, they'll be in denial, not really understanding why they do what they do. And then they want to tell themselves they had a good childhood, they had this or this or this. And it's very common. And over a little bit of coach or a short period of time, most of my clients start to become a lot more honest with themselves and a lot more available to the possibilities of, this is why I do this. Now, if you want to be right, and you want to be sensitive and defensive, which also is a component of our defense mechanism, which many people hide out in that defense mechanism, it hinders your ability to create flow. The word prosperity, prospero, is in the flow. I listened to an audio cassette series in 1996 called Prosperity Consciousness by a very renowned author and cellist and photographer named Frederick Lehrman. He was also a Tai Chi master, a very unique man who I eventually developed a relationship with that's lasted multiple years. And that was the first term I ever heard, your dialogue with money. And so his first cassette on that cassette series was very, very groundbreaking for me. I never realized that my dialogue with money wasn't conducive to the creation of it. I didn't realize that I was a money struggler. I didn't realize some of the content that I started to realize by understanding what prosperity means. It's a Latin word, prospero, to flow. And if you're not in flow, typically you'll be in resistance. So there's power and there's force. And so power is here. Power doesn't consume, power is its own energy. Force consumes, force has to have conflict. Force requires a counterforce. It's black and white. It creates an enemy. It has to have opposition. And if you're a counterforce to someone else's force, that's what a trauma bond is. A trauma bond is when we become addicted to a set of feelings, and then we seek out and attract people to fulfill those feelings. And if you find yourself in this conflict, or you're being guilted by people in your circle of influence, your family, your bosses, managers, whatever the situation is, it's time for you to recognize it and give yourself permission and let go of the guilt that continues to control you. Guilt is the number one reason that people stay in traumatic relationships, dysfunctional relationships. And it can show up in your business, it can show up in multitude of situations in life, and it definitely affects your ability to discern consciousness from doubt. Doubt is what keeps people in a state of overwhelm. If you're emotionally overwhelmed, which is an addiction, then you'll try and pull it off at the last minute. And that's what many people do. They're last minute heroes. They come in, they ride into the rescue and rescue themselves because they're addicted to the cardio cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol. And it's like, oh my God. So today was tax day. I mean, any of you pull it off today? Now, for me, it's quarterly tax day, so that doesn't mean anything. My taxes were done months ago, and quarterly taxes on the 15th, which this day is the 18th, is a standard routine. But I've encountered a few people, oh my God, I have to get my taxes out. I'm going to file for an extension. And see, even filing for the extension brings up that last minute situation that the brain craves to pull it off. And that pull it off at the last minute, that's affected by your amygdala is being affected, and in long-term trauma and long-term guilt and or shame, and you're holding on to not being good enough, the amygdala actually enlarges. While the hippocampus shrinks, the amygdala enlarges, and then the neofrontal cortex of the brain is also, or the prefrontal cortex of the brain is also affected. So these three situations is what creates brain fog, meaning that your ability to decide, your ability to discern, your ability to know. And this is why you're sitting there going, I should prospect, but I'm not, because I'm going to go study some more. And I might make a mistake. I might get in trouble. I might say the wrong thing. This is the overwhelmed state. So many people live in. And this is why so many people stay trained, and they train and they train, they train. And the training is still good. I mean, it serves a purpose, but the action is paramount. And if you have challenges in the action, if you're forcing yourself into it in fight or flight, that's the vigilance that gets created by the prefrontal cortex. And that's the fight or flight. That's where the brain reacts to the stimulus like this. And so the prefrontal cortex shrinks in size, and that's part of the decision-making process between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, and that's where so many people live in this brain fog. And if it's you, and you're man or woman enough, and you're in a position the pain is great enough, and you're in a position to really admit it, that's acceptance, that's breakthrough. For you to ever be in flow, that means that you're in a state of bliss and joy, and you're able to create an energy that's conducive to attracting other like-minded success seekers who are in a recovery process. So there's three phases to letting go. The first phase of letting go is acceptance, and that's sobriety. It's the emotional sobriety. Recovery is the day-to-day process where you're able to step into your business and step into your life, and you're in a flow state. It's not forced. You're able to pick the telephone up, you're able to send a message or write content, and you're doing it in a state of energy that there's no worry about an outcome that hasn't happened. You're right here and now. And that means you're less sensitive and defensive, and you're not in your head, and you're not worried about making a mistake, getting in trouble, saying the wrong thing, offending someone, or all the stories that a large percent of the population use to tell themselves to stay overwhelmed. To really find that space, to find the zone, the hands-free zone, to find fifth gear, to find overdrive, any of the metaphors that you want to use to be able to be in a let go state. Well, here's the book right here, Letting Go, David Hawkins, The Pathway to Surrender. As you can see, my copy is very frayed and yellowed out and broken down, and it's traveled hundreds of thousands of miles with me. I've been carrying that book around for years with me when I would fly an average of 150,000 air miles a year. I've owned that book since 2013. So that book saw many, many trips with me on many overnight flights and red-eye flights. And so I've read that book countless times. So I consistently read the book Letting Go, Transcending Levels of Consciousness and Power versus Force by David Hawkins. I mean, on a daily basis. At 65 years old, going on 66, I am still in that flow state. And that brings me back to being able to let go. I was in church yesterday, and I was just feeling some of the perpetrators and violators in my life, and I was looking over them, and I was forgiving them. Tears were running down my face, and I was just feeling that in that He is risen state, the people, and I was just feeling the energy of everyone around him. The music and the band was exceptional. I could just feel that release happening. That was flow. I mean, I could just feel it leaving my body. And now I've been at this for 33 years. That means there's no end to letting go. Letting go is not an end. There's no end to letting go. Letting go is a process. And so letting go, more and more emotions come up, even as you're letting go. More events, you'll access more events, you get your memory back, and you start to, or you may not even had a memory because you've lived in a repressed memory where it was so traumatic or so unpredictable that you shut it down. And that happens a lot. And so those stuff stored feelings are what creates a lot of brain fog and a lot of procrastination and avoidance. And so it's imperative that you be clear on why you want to own a business. You don't want to own a business because someone gives you, oh, you should do this. You want to own a business for you. It's for you. It's about you. Now, that's contradictory to a lot of what you're told. You're told it's about them. Well, that's true. It is about them, but it's really about you, because if it's your corporation, you're the one paying the taxes. And if it's your corporation, it's your payroll that you're responsible for. And if it's your corporation, it's your bank account. And that means that you're not a sole proprietor any longer. You're a corporation, and you're as a shareholder of your corporation, it's your responsibility to attract your reality more quality, like-minded success seekers that you can partner and collaborate with. Ideally, you are looking for people who begin to believe what you believe. But if you believe you're not good enough, well, then what are you going to attract? I mean, Simon Sinek wrote the book in the 2000. I mean, he really broke through in 2011, 12, and 13 with his groundbreaking book, Start With Why. And in that book and in that content, he was on TED Talk when he broke through. He was covering that with a white flip page, attract people who believe what you believe. And he was talking about how companies do that. Well, that's going to happen. So you're either going to attract people who are in anxiety, fear, and doubt, or you can attract people in consciousness who are over here and they're in the flow. And that's called the law of the few. So if your business is filled with people who don't believe, who are in a state of they're stuck, well, some of that could be your responsibility, but also a lot of that is the America and the world. But if you're not attracting anyone who can produce, and you've been in this business for a few days, weeks, months, or years, well, it's a direct reflection of your inability to let go. And the more that you understand that letting go is a separation from feelings and events, and that's what changes the reflexes. If your brain is consistently overwhelmed in a brain fog, then you are going to be in a state of hypervigilance in fight or flight. Specifically, in this state like this, it means you're going to react to the stimulus. As you begin to let go and live in a much more relaxed state, your reflexes change and your ability to articulate improves. And when someone says, I'll get back to you, you're able to say, when will you be getting back to me? But if you go like this and you can't get that out of your mouth, and you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake or offend someone, you've just sent a mixed message. I had a woman who was telling me today, she goes, I really want to hire you, but, and I mean, it was just like, I mean, I've heard this thousands and in the hundreds of thousands of times. And she goes, you'll be hearing from me. And I said, when will I be hearing from you? And then she went into fight or flight. I just like this predictable. And I know I won't be hearing from her. I mean, she was telling me what I want to hear. But that she thinks that. It's not that I want to hear that, it's predictable. So I was diplomatically let her go. That was flow. So I wasn't like pissed off and I can't believe this woman and she should hire me. She has no idea what she's missing. No, that's what the ego does. The ego wants to create loss. The ego wants to create an enemy, an opposition. In flow, you're able to just let people go easily and effortlessly and realize that's one conversation in the banquet of life. Will I follow up with her? No, there's nothing for me to follow up with. She said, I'll be hearing from you. Do you think she's going to hire me because I follow up with her? No, she's going to hire me because she saw the value, or she's not going to hire me because she didn't want to see the value, or because she didn't want to face whatever she was going to face. And that's not my responsibility. My responsibility was to have a relaxed conversation, see if there was a win-win situation. And she wasn't in a place to commit or decide, and that's letting go, and that is flow. Because then you can move right into the next conversation and the next conversation and the next conversation. And if someone doesn't buy from you that day, you didn't fail. I recently coached a woman who told me that her teammate's failure was her failure. I said, well, if you believe that, then that's what you believe. She wanted to argue this point. I'm like, well, you can just be right. I'll just let you go here. Because she wanted, well, if they fail, I fail. And she couldn't get out of this overwhelmed state of anxiety as she was making it about her. And that's what many people do. And I was attempting to give her insight that people are going to fail because they fail to commit. But if you make it personal, then it's about you, and that's the energy that you live in. She can't possibly change who she attracts. And so I was able to break through with her and assist her to understand that back here in these events that shape these feelings, when she lost her innocence as a child and had to be the grown-up of the family, it became her fault, her responsibility. And at 66 years old, even though she's an author of a book with a PhD and all these titles, she's still holding on to this, making it about her. And that critical advisor in her is what creates the brain fog in a trauma bond. And I was able to assist her to let go. And it was a liberating experience. She broke down and cried. It was good for her to have those feelings and understand. And that's what so many people do. They turn it into criticism on themselves about what is even real. And when you begin to let go of that, that's what changes your ability to flow. So flowing means that you're able to be in the moment, be in the present. And when you begin to let go of the brain fog, the events that shape the feelings, it creates a different energy in what you transmute. But if you're transmuting that I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to get in trouble. If that's what you're sending, if that's the signal that you're sending, then you're going to attract your reality more frequently, this type of energy. Flowing is the hands-free zone. Flowing is you're able to move easily and effortlessly. Flowing means you're not in your head so much. You're not in a yeah, but state. Yeah, but you don't understand. My situation is unique. I do understand your situation is your situation. And if you understand that you have the ability to let it go, then you'll change the energy. Changing the energy can be done on any given moment, at any given minute, in any given second by changing a belief. But if your ego wants to hold on to, yeah, but. I coached a woman today who was on Adderall, and she was telling me, I can't focus without that. I said, well, that's your belief. If you believe that you can't focus without Adderall. And I explained to her, I had similar feelings. I believed at one point that I couldn't have fun without alcohol. And that was such a belief. I mean, I couldn't imagine not going to happy hour, and vodka was my mistress, and scotch was my second mistress. And oh my God, how am I going to operate without this? Well, she was so, well, you don't understand. I have no focus. And when I found out, well, she was an adult child of 2 alcoholics. She had no childhood. And then the man she married for 13 years was a narcissistic, passive aggressive perpetrator. And it just fulfilled her feelings of not being able to focus because she was in an unpredictable situation her whole life. And here she is, 37 years old, and she's using whatever she's using, and her belief is what her belief is. And so if you believe that, how can you but if you're locked in to some of these beliefs that disempower you, how can you ever find flow? The answer is you can't. That's why with the simple decision, the power of a decision, you can unequivocally change your life. This can be done one decision at a time. And I mean, people go, well, how do I do that? It's not, how do I? It's you commit to I am. I am willing to accept the situation for what it is. I'm willing to practice forgiveness of others and myself. I am open to the probability of being able to create a 6-figure income in my business in a 24 to 36 month period. And when you step into that power of commitment, rather than being interested, so many people get excited and they get interested. Oh my God. Oh my, I'm Jojo the Indian circus boy and girl, and I can do this. Well, it's not just a do, it's a be situation. Can you be relaxed? Can you go day to day, back to back in a relaxed energy, connecting with people, asking questions in a sequence, prospecting people? Can you do that back to back? Can you devote that energy to living your dreams? Because if you're inconsistent, that's a direct reflection of your inconsistent emotions. When you become conscious, that's what changes the whole energy. When you become conscious, you understand, you know, you're unaware. You become as cool as the other side of the pillow. There's ice in your veins. Now, early in my career, right there, I was a grinder, and I would clench. I would clench in the day and I would clench at night. Then I had headaches right here from C1 and C2. And then it would affect my upper rib head, my low back, and L4 all on this side because I was overcompensating, trying to make up for lost time. By God, I'm going to succeed if it fucking kills me. I mean, these were the affirmations I was using. And I was in so much force and so much control that I had migraine headaches. I mean, for years. And I went to chiropractors. And then I found a book. Vicky knows this author, Dr. John Sarno. In 1996, I found a book called The Mind-Body Prescription. And I bought all 3 of Dr. John Sarno's books, and I started studying his content. And I realized that I had a condition that he's discussed in this book that intense people have. It was called TMS, tension myositis syndrome. It means I'd been under a lot of duress as a child. There was a lot of pressure on me to perform at a set of standards that I could never match the moving target. And my father, my grandfather, and my mother colluded to put this pressure on me to be the golden child. And I was a silver child. I could never reach this moving target of their golden child that I could never meet. And so no matter what I did, it was never good enough. And that's how I grew up. And when I started to understand, wow, good is good enough. I don't have to be great. I don't have to go out and pour greatness into people. I'll just focus on being my best self. And when I started to take that pressure off, it began to change who and what I attracted. Now, this was 10 years into sobriety that I started to have that breakthrough. And then that next year, I had my first multiple 6-figure year. And then people began to show up differently. That was the flow I experienced. I was a pissed off, angry producer, and I was doing it for my team, and I was closing the sales for my team, and I was hosting the events. There was just a lot of intensity that people go, wow, that dude's intense. And I go, I'm not intense. And that's what I was an angry producer. And when I started to really understand that was the connection to my headache, that pressure is an illusion. I'm not under any pressure. There's nothing on the ceiling, and I'm responsible for my own feelings. I began the process of letting go. And you can too. You can do it right here tonight. You can do it before you go to bed. You can do it immediately after this call. You can do it right here this second. Letting go is your ability to separate your feelings from the events that shape them. So letting go of struggle is not even necessary. You do not want to be a noble struggler. You want to be a relaxed producer in a very relaxed body. Desiree, I'm going to pass the Zoom back to you. Desiree, are you there?
I'm here. Sorry about that. I was muted. Thank you, Jeff. Great content tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Week 11, guys. So hopefully you have received great value so far, and we have 1 week left. Jeff, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Great to be here this evening. If you would like a free 20-minute coaching call, feel free to go out to Messenger and send me a message, and I'll respond to you within 24 hours. Have a great evening.
Good night, all.
Thanks, Jeff.